Do you think you know ancient Greece? In fact, the myths that are usually told are just the tip of the iceberg. But what if I told you that there is cannibalism, demonic creatures, and creepy curses in these legends, and one myth is so terrible that they tried to erase it from history? You'll find out about it at the end, but will you be able to watch it until then?
Let's check it out.
Orpheus is the greatest musician of antiquity, able to tame wild animals with his singing and make stones cry. But few people know that his story did not end after his death. When Orpheus was torn apart by the enraged Maenads, his severed head continued to speak. She sang songs, predicted fate, and could reveal the secrets of the afterlife. The priests found this head and took it to the temple, where they kept it as a sacred artifact. They worshipped her as a living god and believed that Orpheus's voice carried the truth from the world of the dead. But the more prophecies he gave, the scarier they became. The Greeks began to fear his words. It is said that one day the priests heard a prophecy that horrified them so much that they decided to destroy Orpheus's head once and for all. They burned her at the stake, but before they disappeared, they whispered the last prophecy about the death of all mankind. The Greeks told of King Tantalus, who fed the gods with human meat. But there was another feast that was not included in the myths. It is said that in an ancient temple, there was a priest who believed that only by eating human flesh could one become equal to the gods. He gathered his followers and held a feast where they ate the flesh of the captives. But it turned out that among them was God himself in the form of a mortal. He cursed everyone present, and their bodies began to merge with each other, turning into one terrible creature, eternally hungry, eternally suffering. King Midas is known for his gift of turning everything into gold, but there was another person who wanted such power and paid the price. His name was Lycan, and he stole a ring from the gods that gives a golden touch. But it turned out that gold was gradually taking away life. First, he lost his sense of touch, then his sight. Eventually, his heart turned golden, and he turned into a living golden statue trapped in his own body. Arachne was a mere mortal, but her talent for weaving surpassed even the gods. When she dared to challenge Athena to a contest, the goddess accepted the challenge. But in a dispute with the gods, mortals cannot win. Arachne created a tapestry depicting all the mistakes and cruelties of the gods. When Athena saw this, she was furious. Instead of the usual punishment, she put a curse on Arachne, turned her into a huge spider. It is said that every spider web that spiders weave is a piece of a story that Arachne is trying to tell, but if you listen to the rustle of their threads, you can hear her curse. Many have heard of the Minotaur, but there is an even scarier legend. In the mountains of the Peloponnese, there was a labyrinth built by Hephaestus. It wasn't created to hide someone inside, but to capture souls. The people who entered there heard voices, the whispers of those who got lost there before. They told how the walls moved, how the corridors lengthened endlessly, making it impossible to find a way out. But the scariest thing is that no one has ever come out alive. Right now, archaeologists are still searching for this maze, but maybe it's looking for them. Typhon dreamed of immortality. He prayed to the gods, sacrificing to them, and in the end, they granted him life without end. But it turned out that immortality is a curse. His body wasn't aging, but it was rotting. He felt like he was decomposing from the inside, but he couldn't die. People began to fear him because he walked among the living, exuding the smell of death. Finally, the priests decided to put an end to him, but it was impossible to kill him. Then, he was simply locked in a tomb, deep underground. But sometimes travelers say they hear his voice calling from the depths. They say he was seen on the battlefield before the battles. He didn't attack, he didn't speak, he just stared. But if someone met Phobos's gaze, he was seized with such intense fear that he forgot who he was, where he was, and he was just dying of terror. The warriors saw him before the bloodiest battles. If he appeared, death was inevitable. But the real horror was that he could enter people's dreams. Those who saw him in their dreams did not wake up anymore. We all know the myth of Prometheus. The Titan was chained to a rock, and the eagle pecked at his liver every day. But there is another much more creepy story about these birds. Ancient texts speak of the birds of Hades, which fed not on bodies, but on souls. When they appeared, people disappeared without a trace. Their bodies remained, but without life. One of the most terrifying stories is related to King Salmoneus. He dared to impersonate Zeus, riding around in a chariot and throwing torches at people, depicting lightning. Hades, who found out about this, called his eagles, and they tore the king's soul apart. But the scariest thing is that his body remained intact. It kept moving, screaming, trying to breathe, but without a soul. It was built on the site of an ancient sacrifice. People brought gifts there. But soon, they began to notice that the pilgrims were disappearing. Everyone who went inside after sunset never came out. People tried to destroy the temple, but every time at dawn it appeared again, as if the place itself would not allow it to disappear. Archaeologists are still finding traces of the disappeared people, but no one can explain what happened to them. Fair does not mean merciful. The cruelty of the gods is not uncommon, but some were so terrible that their myths were tried not to tell. One of these goddesses is Dike, the goddess of justice. She was different from her Olympic version. In ancient myths, it was said that Dike punished people not just with death, but with eternal torment. In one of the stories, the king killed his wife in order to marry another. He prayed to Zeus to be forgiven, but Zeus did not respond. Dike came in his place. She put a curse on him. Every night he woke up in the body of his murdered wife. He felt her fear, her pain, heard her screams, and in the morning he returned to his body again. This went on for years, until he himself lost his mind and he did not rush into the abyss. But the worst part is that they say that Dike can still come after those who commit violent crimes. Ancient Greece is full of mystical stories that frighten even today. Which one of them struck you the most? Or maybe you've heard other myths? Write in the comments.